I got a call about someone suspicious on this platform matching your description. What's that weapon you're holding?
This? I'm blind. This is my walking stick. It's a cane for the blind.
Shut up, you're lying. You can clearly see. You looked right at me when I walked up.
I turned towards your voice, sir. I'm blind, not deaf. I can't see you, and this is a standard.
Detective Marcus Holland, badge number 4192 of the Oakland Transit Police, walked up to a blind man standing alone on a subway platform at 6:43 a.m. and accused him of planting a bomb. The man, Jerome Washington, held a folded white cane with red reflective tape and wore dark glasses that shielded eyes damaged since birth. He was waiting for the morning train to his job as an accessibility consultant. Holland saw the cane, heard Jerome's calm explanation, and decided it was all an act. He grabbed Jerome's arm, demanded he stop pretending to be blind, and ordered him to open the black messenger bag on his shoulder because dispatch had reported a suspicious black male with a bag near the platform. Jerome said, "I'm blind. I can't see. This is my work bag. I have my laptop and client files." Holland responded, "Blind people don't carry laptops. You're lying, and you're hiding something." What Holland didn't know was that Jerome Washington had worked with 3 federal agencies on accessibility compliance, that 4 security cameras and 6 passenger phones were recording every word, and that his assumption would cost him his career and trigger an $11.6 million federal judgment that would follow him for the rest of his life. Before we continue, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. We're building a global community that believes in accountability. If you think racial profiling and disability discrimination have no place in law enforcement, hit that like button and subscribe. We're exposing cases where assumptions destroyed lives and justice had the final word. Jerome Washington lost his sight at 11 months old when a severe infection attacked his optic nerves and left him in complete darkness. Now, at 41 years old, he had spent 4 decades building a life that proved blindness was not a limitation. He worked as a senior accessibility consultant for the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, advising on ADA compliance, reviewing station designs, and training staff on how to assist disabled passengers. His expertise was respected across the region. Transit agencies in 3 states had hired him to evaluate their systems. He served on the National Federation of the Blind's Transportation Committee. He taught orientation and mobility classes on weekends, showing newly blind adults how to navigate public transit safely and independently. His morning routine was precise and consistent. Every weekday, Jerome woke at 5:30 a.m., prepared breakfast, dressed in business casual attire, and left his apartment by 6:15. He walked 4 blocks to the MacArthur BART station, using his white cane to detect curbs, obstacles, and changes in terrain. He knew every crack in the sidewalk, every street crossing, every texture shift that told him where he was. At 6:35, he descended the station stairs, tapped his transit card, and walked to the southbound platform where he waited for the 6:50 train to downtown Oakland. He had taken this exact route 5 days a week for the past 7 years. Station agents knew him by name. Regular commuters recognized his voice when he asked which train was arriving. His black messenger bag always contained the same items: a laptop with screen-reading software, project files in Braille, his phone, a portable Braille display, and the mobility training materials he used for evening classes. This Tuesday morning in late October felt like every other Tuesday morning. Jerome stood near the yellow tactile warning strip that marked the platform edge, his cane folded and resting against his leg, his bag over his shoulder. He wore his standard dark glasses to protect his sensitive eyes from the harsh fluorescent station lights. Around him, other commuters waited quietly, some reading phones, some drinking coffee, all absorbed in their early morning routines. The platform was moderately busy but not crowded. Jerome listened to an audiobook through one earbud, while keeping the other ear free to hear train announcements and approaching footsteps. Nothing about this morning suggested anything unusual was about to happen. But 30 feet away, Detective Marcus Holland was watching him with suspicion that had nothing to do with evidence and everything to do with assumptions he had made in less than 10 seconds. Detective Marcus Holland had been with the Oakland Transit Police for 12 years, and his personnel file told a story that should have ended his career long before this morning. He had accumulated 23 civilian complaints, 14 of which came from black men who described being stopped, questioned, searched, or detained without clear cause. 5 complaints specifically mentioned Holland's aggressive approach to disabled passengers, including 2 incidents where he had questioned whether someone's disability was real. Internal Affairs had reviewed his record 4 times. Each review noted concerning patterns but stopped short of recommending termination. His supervisors described him as proactive and willing to make difficult stops that other officers avoided. They saw his complaint rate as evidence of his activity level, not his judgment. That morning, dispatch had received an anonymous call at 6:38 a.m. reporting a suspicious black male with a large bag near the MacArthur station platform. The caller's voice was muffled and the description was vague. Black male, dark clothing, carrying a bag, acting nervous. The caller disconnected before providing more details. When the call came over Holland's radio, he was patrolling the mezzanine level 1 floor above the platform. He decided to respond immediately. Holland descended the stairs and scanned the southbound platform. Approximately 40 people were waiting for trains. His eyes moved across the crowd and stopped on Jerome, Washington. Holland saw a black man in dark clothing holding a bag and standing alone near the platform edge. The white cane didn't register as a mobility device. The dark glasses didn't register as eye protection for someone with photosensitivity. Holland's mind had already connected Jerome to the suspicious person call, and every detail he observed was filtered through that assumption. He approached from behind, his hand resting on his duty belt in a gesture meant to project authority. He didn't call out. He didn't identify himself from a distance. He walked directly up to Jerome and invaded his personal space before speaking. Jerome heard the footsteps but didn't turn because people walked past constantly. It wasn't until Holland stopped inches behind him and spoke that Jerome realized the footsteps had been meant for him. "Hey, you. Turn around." Jerome turned his head toward the voice, confusion crossing his face. The tone was aggressive, commanding, completely unlike the polite interactions he typically had on this platform. "Me? Are you speaking to me? I got a call about someone suspicious on this platform matching your description," Holland said, his voice sharp and loud enough that nearby passengers turned to look. "What are you doing here?" Jerome's expression shifted from confusion to careful patience. He had dealt with overzealous security before, but never with this level of immediate hostility. "I'm waiting for my train. I take this train every morning to work." "What's in the bag?" Holland demanded, pointing at the black messenger bag even though Jerome couldn't see the gesture. "My laptop and work files. I'm an accessibility consultant. I work downtown." "Open it." Jerome's jaw tightened slightly. "Officer, I don't understand what's happening. I'm just waiting for my train. I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't ask for your life story. I said open the bag." Holland stepped closer, closing the distance to less than 2 feet. Jerome could hear the man's breathing now, could sense the aggressive proximity. His voice remained calm but carried a note of firmness. "I'm blind. I'm standing here waiting for my morning commute. I'm happy to explain what I'm doing, but I'd like to know why you're questioning me." "Blind?" Holland's voice dripped with skepticism. "You're looking right at me. I'm turning toward your voice. I can't see you. I'm completely blind." "Sure you are. Let me guess, you're going to tell me that's a blind person's cane too." "Yes, it's a white cane. I use it for mobility." Holland reached out and grabbed the folded cane from where it rested against Jerome's leg. Jerome instinctively moved to stop him but pulled back, not wanting to make contact with what was clearly a police officer. "Don't touch my cane, please. I need that." Holland examined the cane briefly, then held it up like evidence. "This could be anything. This could be a weapon. You could be hiding something in here. It's a hollow aluminum mobility cane. It's a medical device. There's nothing hidden in it." A woman standing 20 feet away pulled out her phone and started recording. A man in a business suit moved closer, his face showing concern. The platform's security cameras continued their constant recording, capturing every word and gesture in high definition. Holland ignored the growing attention and focused back on Jerome. "I'm going to ask you one more time. What's in that bag?" "I already told you. My laptop, work files, and mobility training materials. I teach orientation classes in the evenings. Laptop, right? Holland's voice carried open disbelief. Blind people don't use laptops. Jerome felt a familiar sinking sensation. He had encountered ignorance about blindness before, but this was different. This was willful disbelief combined with authority and aggression. Blind people absolutely use laptops. We use screen readers, braille displays, and adaptive technology. I use mine every day for work. Open the bag. Now. Am I being detained? You're being questioned in connection with a suspicious person call. Open the bag or I'll open it for you. Jerome slowly removed the messenger bag from his shoulder. His hands moved carefully to the zipper. I'm opening it now. Everything inside is work-related. There's nothing suspicious. He unzipped the bag and held it open. Holland grabbed it from his hands and dumped the contents onto the platform floor. A laptop clattered against concrete. Papers scattered. A portable braille display hit the ground hard enough that its plastic case cracked. Hey! Jerome's voice sharpened with controlled anger. That equipment is expensive and necessary for my work. You just damaged it. Holland crouched down and began rifling through the items, picking up the laptop, opening Jerome's files, examining everything with rough hands that showed no care for the belongings he was scattering. The woman recording moved closer. Officer, what are you doing? He's blind. He told you what was in the bag. Why are you treating him like this? Ma'am, step back or you'll be charged with interference. I'm recording this. Everyone here sees what you're doing. Holland stood up, leaving Jerome's belongings scattered on the platform floor. He turned his attention back to Jerome, and his next words made it clear that evidence had never been his concern. I don't believe you're blind. I think you're faking it. I think you got a call about police on this platform, and you're trying to avoid getting searched by pretending to have a disability. Jerome's voice went cold. I have been blind for 40 years. I have medical documentation. I work for BART as an accessibility consultant. My identification is in my wallet. You can verify everything I'm telling you in less than 5 minutes if you actually care about the truth. Or you're a very good liar with a very good story. Holland grabbed Jerome's arm. You're coming with me for additional questioning. There was a bomb threat called in earlier this week, and you matched the description of someone acting suspiciously near transit infrastructure. The words hit the platform like a shockwave. Several passengers stepped back. The woman recording gasped audibly. Jerome's voice stayed level but carried unmistakable intensity. I absolutely do not match any legitimate description of a bomb threat. I'm a blind man waiting for my regular morning train to my regular job. This is racial profiling and disability discrimination, and I'm telling you clearly that I do not consent to any search or detention. We'll see what my supervisor says about that. Holland pulled Jerome's arm, trying to lead him toward the stairs. Jerome resisted, not violently, but firmly. I'm not going anywhere until you tell me the specific legal justification for detaining me. What crime do you believe I've committed? Suspicious behavior. Refusing to cooperate with a lawful investigation. And if you keep resisting, I'll add obstruction. The man in the business suit stepped forward. Officer, I ride this train every day. I see this man every morning. He works for BART. He's blind. He's not doing anything suspicious. You're making a mistake. Holland whipped his head toward the man. Sir, I need you to step back immediately. I'm just telling you that you're wrong about. Step back. Now. The man raised his hands and stepped back, but his phone was out now, recording along with at least 5 other passengers. Holland turned back to Jerome and pulled harder on his arm. Let's go. Jerome planted his feet. I am not resisting arrest because I am not under arrest. I am asserting my Fourth Amendment rights. If you believe you have probable cause to detain me, state it clearly. Otherwise, you're violating my civil rights on camera. Holland's face flushed. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across his expression. But he had committed too far to back down now. Fine. You're under arrest for interfering with a police investigation and suspicious behavior consistent with terrorist activity. The words hung in the air, absurd and devastating. Jerome Washington, a blind accessibility consultant waiting for his morning train, had just been accused of terrorism. Holland reached for his handcuffs, and Jerome's voice cut through the platform with laser precision. You are arresting a blind federal contractor on a terrorism accusation with zero evidence, while multiple cameras record you violating ADA regulations and civil rights law. I want your name, badge number, and supervisor immediately. Detective Marcus Holland, badge 4192, and you'll meet my supervisor at the station. Holland grabbed Jerome's wrist and pulled it behind his back. Jerome didn't fight, but his voice remained strong and clear, projecting for the cameras he knew were recording. I am not resisting. I am blind. I cannot see what's happening. I am being detained without probable cause. My cane and my belongings are scattered on the ground. I need my cane to navigate safely. Holland snapped the first handcuff onto Jerome's wrist. The metal bit into skin. You'll get your stuff back later. That cane is a medical device protected under federal law. Taking it from me is like taking a wheelchair from someone who cannot walk. The second cuff clicked shut. Jerome stood there, hands restrained behind his back, unable to see anything around him, his mobility cane lying on the platform 15 feet away. The woman who had been recording spoke up again, her voice shaking with anger. This is insane. He's blind. He works here. He hasn't done anything wrong. Holland ignored her and pulled Jerome toward the stairs. Jerome stumbled immediately because he couldn't see where he was stepping, couldn't use his cane to detect the ground in front of him, couldn't orient himself in space. I can't see the stairs. I don't know where I'm walking. Please slow down. Holland didn't slow down. He pulled harder, and Jerome's foot caught the edge of the first step. He stumbled forward, his shoulder slamming into the handrail. Stop resisting. I'm not resisting. I'm blind. I can't see where you're taking me. They reached the mezzanine level, and Holland steered Jerome toward the transit police office. Behind them, at least 8 passengers were following, phones out, recording everything. The woman who had started recording first was on her phone now, speaking urgently. Yes, I'm at MacArthur BART station. A transit cop just arrested a blind man for nothing. He accused him of terrorism. The man works for BART. Everyone here saw it. We have it on video. Inside the transit police office, Holland pushed Jerome into a chair. Sit. Don't move. Jerome sat, his hands still cuffed behind him, his breathing controlled but his jaw tight with barely contained fury. I want to speak with your supervisor. I want my phone call. And I want my cane returned immediately because without it I cannot navigate. Which means you're creating a dangerous situation for a disabled person in your custody. A sergeant entered the office. His name tag read Gomez. He looked at Holland, then at Jerome, then back at Holland. What's going on? Suspicious person call. Subject was acting nervous on the platform. Refused to cooperate. Matches description of previous threat reporting. Jerome spoke before the sergeant could respond. That's a lie. I was standing at my regular spot waiting for my regular train. Detective Holland approached me, accused me of faking blindness, dumped my work belongings on the floor, damaged my equipment, refused to verify my identity or employment, and arrested me on fabricated terrorism charges. 8 passengers recorded the entire encounter. The station's security cameras recorded it. And I'm telling you clearly that I'm a federal contractor who works for this transit system on accessibility compliance. Sergeant Gomez's expression shifted from neutral to concerned. You work for BART? Yes, I'm an accessibility consultant. I've worked with this agency for 7 years. I was on my way to a meeting downtown. My identification is in my wallet. My supervisor's contact information is in my phone. This entire arrest is based on racial profiling and disability discrimination. Gomez looked at Holland. Did you verify any of this? Holland's face reddened. He refused to cooperate. He wouldn't open his bag voluntarily. I did open my bag, Jerome said, his voice ice cold. After you threatened me. Then you dumped my belongings on the platform floor and damaged my equipment. Then you arrested me for terrorism despite having zero evidence and multiple witnesses telling you I'm a regular commuter who works here. Gomez pulled Holland aside. Their conversation was harsh and whispered, but Jerome could hear every word. Please tell me you verified this guy's story before you brought him in. The call said suspicious black male with a bag. The call said suspicious. Did it say blind? Did it say BART employee? Did it mention terrorism? No, but did you run his ID? Did you check with BART operations? Did you do literally anything before arresting him? Silence. Gomez's voice dropped to a furious whisper. Do you have any idea what you just did? If he's telling the truth, and I'm betting he is, you just arrested our own accessibility consultant on camera and accused him of terrorism for standing on a platform waiting for a train. Sergeant. Gomez walked back to Jerome, his voice careful and professional. Mr. Washington, I'm going to remove these handcuffs. I apologize for this situation. The cuffs clicked open. Jerome rubbed his wrists where the metal had dug in. Where's my cane? Still on the platform. I'll have an officer retrieve it and all your belongings. My braille display was damaged when Detective Holland threw my belongings on the ground. That device costs $3,000 and is necessary for my work. I need documentation of that damage. Gomez nodded. We'll document everything. Can I see your identification? Jerome reached for his wallet with careful, controlled movements. He pulled out his BART contractor badge, his driver's license that listed his vision restriction, and a card from the National Federation of the Blind. He handed them to Gomez. The sergeant examined them, and his face went pale. You're Jerome Washington. You're the Jerome Washington who wrote our accessibility training manual. Yes. You testified before the Transit Board last year about platform safety improvements. Yes. You worked with our police department on ADA compliance protocols. Yes. I specifically helped develop guidelines for interacting with disabled passengers. Those guidelines clearly state that officers should never remove mobility devices from disabled individuals and should verify disabilities through respectful questioning and documentation review, rather than through accusations and physical testing. Gomez turned to Holland, and his voice was no longer a whisper. You arrested the person who trains us on disability rights, the person who literally wrote our policies. And you did it by violating every single protocol he helped us create. An officer returned with Jerome's belongings. The laptop had a cracked screen. The braille display's case was broken. Papers were crumpled. Everything smelled like platform grime. Jerome ran his hands over the damaged equipment, his face showing controlled devastation. This laptop contains client files for 3 federal agencies. This braille display was custom configured for my needs. Both are now damaged because Detective Holland chose to throw them on concrete rather than hand them to me or set them down gently. Gomez documented everything with photographs, his jaw tight. Mr. Washington, I need to ask directly. Are you filing a complaint? Jerome's answer was quiet but absolute. I'm filing a federal lawsuit. Americans with Disabilities Act violations. Fourth Amendment violations. False arrest. Destruction of medical equipment. And I'm requesting a full investigation into Detective Holland's pattern of complaints from disabled individuals, because this didn't happen in a vacuum. The room went silent. Holland started to speak. I was responding to a legitimate. Don't. Gomez cut him off. Don't say another word. You're suspended effective immediately. Badge and weapon on the desk. Holland placed his badge and gun on the desk with shaking hands. Jerome stood, and an officer handed him his white cane. He unfolded it, extended it to full length, and tapped the ground to orient himself. His other hand held his damaged equipment. I'd like to leave now. I assume I'm not actually under arrest for terrorism. You were never under arrest for anything legitimate, Gomez said quietly. Again, I apologize. Your apology doesn't fix my equipment or erase the terror of being detained while blind and unable to see what was happening to me. Your apology doesn't address the fact that Detective Holland saw a blind black man and assumed terrorist instead of commuter. Save your apologies for the courtroom. Jerome tapped his cane once, turned toward the exit and walked out with perfect dignity. Behind him, Detective Marcus Holland's career was already over. He just didn't know how expensive the ending would be. The video went viral within 4 hours. The woman who had started recording uploaded her footage with the caption, "Transit cop arrests BART's own accessibility consultant and accuses blind man of terrorism for waiting for his train." It was shared 40,000 times in the first hour. News stations picked it up by afternoon. By evening, the story had national attention. BART's Office of Civil Rights opened an investigation immediately. The lead investigator, Patricia Chun, had worked on federal discrimination cases for 15 years. She reviewed the security footage from 4 different cameras. She interviewed 8 witnesses. She pulled Holland's complete personnel file, and she found exactly what Jerome had predicted. A pattern so clear it should have triggered termination years ago. Holland had 23 civilian complaints. 14 involved black men. 5 involved disabled individuals. 3 specifically mentioned Holland questioning whether someone's disability was real. In 2019, he had stopped a deaf passenger and accused him of faking deafness because he looked normal. In 2021, he had removed a wheelchair user from a train because her wheelchair looked too expensive for someone on disability. In 2023, he had questioned whether a veteran with a prosthetic leg was really disabled because he walked too well. Every complaint had been reviewed. Every review had noted concerns. Every review had stopped short of discipline because Holland's supervisors defended him as aggressive but effective. Chen's report was devastating. Detective Holland's pattern demonstrates clear bias against disabled individuals and people of color. His repeated questioning of disabilities as fake, his removal of mobility devices, and his aggressive approach to individuals who pose no legitimate threat constitute systematic civil rights violations that the department failed to address despite repeated warnings. The Department of Justice Civil Rights Division opened a parallel investigation into BART Transit Police's handling of disability complaints. Federal investigators interviewed 47 individuals who had filed complaints against various officers. They reviewed training records. They examined supervisory decisions. They found a culture that valued aggressive policing over rights protection and activity over accuracy. Jerome's attorneys deposed Holland under oath. The deposition lasted 6 hours. Attorney, when you saw Mr. Washington on the platform, what made you think he was suspicious? Holland, he matched the description from the call. Attorney, the call described a suspicious black male with a bag. Mr. Washington is black and had a bag. What else matched? Holland, he was acting nervous. Attorney, how was he acting nervous? Holland, he was just standing there. Attorney, standing still equals nervous? Holland, in the context of the call, yes. Attorney, did you see his white cane? Holland, yes. Attorney, did you recognize it as a mobility device? Holland, I thought it could be something else. Attorney, such as? Holland, a weapon, a tool, something hidden. Attorney, you've received ADA training 3 times. That training includes identification of white canes as protected mobility devices. Correct. Holland, yes. Attorney, did you consider that Mr. Washington might actually be blind? Holland, I considered that he might be faking. Attorney, why? Long pause. Holland, because he looked at me when I approached. Attorney, he turned toward your voice. That's what blind people do. They orient toward sound. Did your training cover that? Holland, yes. Attorney, but you decided he was faking anyway? Holland, he just didn't seem blind. Attorney, what does blind seem like to you? Detective, no answer. The deposition record filled 214 pages. Every page made Holland's defense weaker. The city's legal team knew they couldn't win. The evidence was overwhelming. The optics were catastrophic. And the plaintiff was a respected disability advocate who had helped write the policies Holland violated. They offered $500,000 to settle quietly. Jerome's attorneys rejected it in under an hour. This isn't about money. This is about a police department that ignored years of warnings about an officer who shouldn't have had a badge. We're going to trial. The trial began on a Monday morning in federal court. The jury consisted of 8 women and 4 men, ranging from a retired teacher to a software engineer to a nurse. During voir dire, Jerome's attorneys asked every potential juror one question. Have you or has someone you love ever had their reality questioned by someone in authority? 11 of the 12 jurors raised their hands. The trial lasted 8 days. Jerome testified on day 2. He described the disorientation of having his cane taken while standing on a platform edge. He explained the terror of being pulled upstairs he couldn't see while handcuffed and unable to catch himself if he fell. He detailed the professional damage of having his equipment destroyed and his morning routine violated so severely that he struggled with anxiety every time he approached that platform now. I've been blind for 40 years, Jerome said, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. I've built a career helping organizations serve disabled people with dignity. And in less than 10 minutes, Detective Holland reduced me to someone begging a police officer to believe that my blindness was real. He made me prove my disability while I stood there unable to see, unable to navigate, unable to protect myself. That kind of powerlessness doesn't leave you. Medical experts testified that Jerome's type of blindness, bilateral optic nerve atrophy, was impossible to fake and that white canes were legally protected medical devices under ADA Section 504. Disability rights experts testified that removing a blind person's cane was equivalent to removing a wheelchair or confiscating insulin. Other disabled individuals testified about their experiences with Holland. A deaf man described being accused of faking deafness. A wheelchair user described being removed from a train. A veteran with PTSD described being told his service dog didn't look like a real service dog. The jury watched the security footage 4 times. They saw Holland grab Jerome's cane. They saw him dump equipment on the platform. They saw Jerome stumble on stairs while handcuffed and unable to see. They saw passengers telling Holland he was wrong and Holland ignoring them. On day 6, Holland took the stand. His attorney tried damage control. Attorney, Detective Holland, did you intend to discriminate against Mr. Washington? Holland, no. Attorney, did you believe you were responding to a legitimate security threat? Holland, yes. Jerome's attorney cross-examined him for 3 hours. Attorney, you testified that you believed Mr. Washington was faking blindness. What evidence supported that belief? Holland, he looked at me. Attorney, he turned toward your voice. Is that your only evidence? Holland, he seemed too confident for a blind person. Attorney, too confident? Holland, blind people usually seem more uncertain. Attorney, you've based your entire justification for this arrest on stereotypes about how blind people should act? Holland, that's not what I said. Attorney, then what did you say? Holland couldn't answer. The jury deliberated for 7 hours. They returned a verdict that made national headlines. They found in favor of Jerome Washington on every count. ADA violations, Fourth Amendment violations, false arrest, destruction of property, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. They awarded $11.6 million in damages, $4.1 million compensatory, $7.5 million punitive. The jury foreman read a statement. The defendants' actions were not just wrong. They were cruel. Detective Holland saw a blind man and assumed criminal. He saw a mobility device and assumed weapon. He saw a black professional and assumed threat. Those assumptions violated law, violated decency, and violated everything law enforcement should stand for. This verdict sends a message. Disabilities are not subject to belief or disbelief. They exist. And when officers refuse to accept that reality, the consequences will be severe. Detective Marcus Holland was fired 3 weeks after the verdict. His termination letter cited violations so extensive they filled 4 pages. He lost his pension after only 12 years of service. He lost his post-certification, meaning he could never work in law enforcement anywhere in California. At 44 years old, his career was over. The $11.6 million judgment couldn't be discharged in bankruptcy. The court ordered his wages garnished for life. He found work as a night security guard for $16 an hour, with a significant portion of each paycheck seized to pay a debt he would carry until death. His name became permanently associated with one of the most egregious cases of disability discrimination ever caught on camera. Job applications asked about criminal history and civil judgments. Background checks surfaced the lawsuit. Every interview ended the same way. BART Transit Police underwent a complete overhaul. The police chief retired under pressure. 5 other officers with similar complaint patterns were forced out. New policies required supervisors to review all disability-related complaints within 48 hours. Officers received mandatory quarterly training on disability rights. A civilian oversight board was created with representation from disability advocacy organizations. Jerome Washington used part of his settlement to establish the Disability Documentation Fund, which provided free legal cameras and advocacy support to disabled individuals facing discrimination. He continued his work as an accessibility consultant, now with national recognition and influence that forced organizations to take his recommendations seriously. He still rides BART. He still takes the same morning train, but he carries a body camera now, clipped to his bag, recording every interaction. Because he learned that even when you do everything right, even when you follow every rule, even when you pose zero threat, assumptions can still turn a morning commute into a federal case. 5 years after that October morning, Jerome spoke at a national conference on disability rights. "I don't need you to believe I'm blind," he said, holding up his white cane. "I need you to respect that I know my own reality better than you do. I don't need your approval of my disability. I need you to stop treating mobility devices like suspicious objects and disabled people like liars. That's not complicated. That's basic human decency. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was a pattern that supervisors ignored until a federal jury forced accountability." Holland's 23 complaints didn't appear overnight. They accumulated over 12 years while supervisors chose activity over accuracy and aggression over rights. Real justice means believing disabled people about their own experiences without requiring them to prove their humanity to skeptical authority figures. What protections do you think should exist for disabled individuals interacting with law enforcement? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you believe taking someone's mobility device should never be justified, subscribe. We're bringing you more stories where discrimination met accountability and lost everything.